Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us for today's episode of Expert Corner, where we sit down with Salesforce product managers to learn more about the products they've been working on and what that means for you, the Salesforce admin. Today, we'll be sitting down with Brinkal Janani, who's the Salesforce product manager for Lightning App Builder. We're going to be talking about great features that you can get hands-on with today, like dynamic forms and actions, and a sneak peek into the roadmap for Lightning App Builder and what that means for you and your roadmap as a Salesforce admin. As always, when we share product information like this, we ask that you make all purchasing decisions based on currently available technologies and not any roadmap items we may discuss. Let's dive in. Hi, Brinkal. Thank you so much for joining us today for Expert Corner. So I'm really excited to get started and talking about some of the latest and greatest updates with App Builder and stuff you've been working on. But first, this is the first time maybe you've met some of the members of our admin community. So can I ask you to introduce yourself and share a little bit about yourself and what you work on here at Salesforce?
Oh, for sure. And first of all, thank you for having me. And for my introduction, my name is Brinkal, obviously, and I'm the PM for Lightning App Builder. I've been at Salesforce for now close to 5 years. And during my tenure at Salesforce, I've done like multiple roles. Like I started off as a hybrid engineer and I worked on dynamic forms, which is your favorite project as an engineer actually. And just recently transitioned to the product management role.
Awesome. Well, yes, that is, some of our favorite products. So it's awesome that you've been working on them for, quite a long time. So tell us a little bit, let's dive right in. I know we've got some exciting updates with App Builder, and I know admins out there are working on building pages, designing pages, and
Mhm.
thinking about their own roadmaps. What are some things you've been working on with App Builder?
All right. I think before going into that question, I think we should first look at the bigger picture, like what's happening in general with the world and what's happening in the industry. So let's start off with like looking at what Salesforce platform allows. Like Salesforce platform currently allows companies, no matter how big or small and no matter which industry they belong to build amazing experiences for their employee and customers. And low code itself is a very critical part of the Salesforce platform because it enables you to build fast, scale with confidence, and empower everyone at your company to succeed. And I think we have taken this philosophy in when we are building and when we are drafting roadmaps for our teams. And that's pretty evident with some of the features that we have launched, specifically dynamic forms and dynamic actions. And you'll see a trend where where we have continued building upon those kind of features for our offerings.
Yeah, and that's really exciting. And I think you're right. It's so important for admins to be, enabled to be part of these bigger changes that we're seeing in the industry. And they're really well positioned to do so, right? Particularly with tools like this. So, what are some of the most important things that you see happening for admins kind of in the wider ecosystem?
So I think first thing that's happening is like we are in the middle of a giant wave of digital transformation. Every business is reimagining ways to serve and connect to their customers. Not only that, they're also like optimizing their manual processes. And by going digital, like according to Gartner, one of the reports that I've read, like by 2024, no code development would account for like close to 60% of the activity when it comes to app development. And that's huge. Now, if you think about no code development, admins and our customers of Lightning App Builder would be at the forefront and at the center seat of low code development. And I think we want to empower admins to like provide like design complex applications for the end users in like really fast time.
So, when admins are thinking about low code development and kind of where they sit with low code development and what tools are available to them, what are some
Mhm.
important things that you want admins to be thinking about, specifically about how they're building pages, how they're designing user experiences?
So I keep on going back to dynamic forms and actions because by dynamic forms and actions, what we have enabled admin to do is like surface right information at the right time at the correct place. And this will make end users more efficient and productive.
Yeah, I know our community is so excited about dynamic forms and actions and thinking about the ways that they can make these really responsive pages and do what you said, right? Surface the right information in the right time in the right place. As these features have been out in the community and being used, what are some things that you've seen, admins do that have helped them be really effective with these features? Like, has there been any great learnings being passed back from the community now that they're being used on, some best practices, some really great efficiencies, um, most common ways you see those features used?
Yes, I think with the advent of these features and specific and especially along with the visibility rules, one thing that has happened is like previously in the previous world, they used to rely on page layouts, which would mean like in order to show different field configurations and different action configurations for the end users, they have to maintain a long list of layouts because dynamic rules were not available on page layouts. But in this new dynamic world, what they can do is like configure rules on a single page and have different fields and different actions show up for them just using a single page. So they don't have this maintenance headache of maintaining multiple page layouts, and they can just work with a single page by configuring rules and making the page more dynamic. So, for example, if they configure a rule saying that I want to show this field section only for the profile of a sales user, and I only want to show a certain field section only for the profile of a marketing user, they can do all those things on a single page. And by doing that, they only have to maintain just one single page and they just work with one page at that point.
And that is so huge. As an admin who formerly managed, a ton of custom profiles and all of the associated page layouts with legacy
Yep.
page layout editor, like that was, it's a lot of overhead. And if you add fields or if you start to make changes, you're talking about huge amounts of work to, make a field visible or remove a field, for example, for different sets of users. So the one page to rule them all is a pretty amazing efficiency for admins. So, that's, I think, a really important point for admins as they're thinking about using these features is where can they gain some efficiencies on the admin side? By removing some of their tech debt with all of maybe the existing page layouts and all of that. What about on the user side? Like, what are things that you've seen for how admins are able to work with their users and really fine tune the user experience? Like, have you seen any big wins out there for admins as they're working with their users and rolling out features like this?
Oh, for sure. I think I talked about this. For the one major value proposition that we want to provide to our admins and to our end users is like by allowing them to surface the right information, the right time and right place. Like imagine a world pre-forms, like where you have this huge record detail component with like tons of fields showing up. And like some of these fields might not be relevant to the stage end user is in right now. For example, if you imagine a record page for a car sales object, you would see all the fields that are relevant to sales. And like if you're using a single page for the entire life cycle of a sales, you start seeing fields for services, post delivery, pre-delivery, all those fields. So if I was an end user and if I see this long list of fields, it would be very difficult for me to find the relevant field that I want to edit or enter data in. But through dynamic forms, what admins can do is like hide certain set of fields behind non-active tabs and only surface fields that are more relevant to the users by using like tab structure that I talked about, by using visibility rules. And by doing this, what they're doing is like only surfacing relevant information to the admin at the right place and at the right time. So as an end user, I'll only see 4 fields or 5 fields that are more relevant to the use case or more relevant to the status of the page I'm on right now and I want to deal with right now, rather than going through a long list of fields on the page.
Yeah, that's definitely a much better user experience. We talk about with intuitive design and creating pages that are a delightful user experience. Like that's a huge part of it is making sure that they're not wading through fields that they don't need to work with. They're wading through data that's not relevant to their job role. So that's awesome. Um, so you've seen these kind of wins out in the field and people that are using dynamic forms and dynamic actions to make a more efficient, you know, setup for their pages and page management, better user experience. For admins that are joining in that maybe haven't, worked with App Builder a ton yet, or haven't started working with dynamic pages and dynamic actions, what
Mhm.
are things that advice you would have for them, like maybe places to get started, or low hanging fruit, if you will, for admins that are just getting started with building these more responsive pages?
Yeah, I think that's a very good point, and thanks for bringing that up. So we have like multiple documentations and trailers that an admin can visit and learn about these features. And we have a very active and vibrant community, Trailblazer community, where like I keep in touch with my customers of dynamic forms and actions, where they can ask me relevant questions about how to use a product, when do they think it should be used, and like answer questions about the roadmap, so they can connect with me or the community as well. But I think there are good resources out there which can help them onboard these newer features. But in general, just Lightning, the one of the other philosophy that I've adopted while designing Lightning App Builder and while making sure, or while designing newer features on Lightning App Builder, is to make them like explanatory. So when you go to Lightning App Builder, it should be like as easy to use as you have been using it for like decades. You shouldn't have to spend hours and hours to understand like how do I do this, how do I do that. It should just come naturally to you. And I think we put a lot of effort to make sure that it's designed that way.
Do you have any tips on, like, once they're, you know, aware of how to use it and comfortable using it, like, what are some things that you see kind of low hanging fruit that are great places to start with things that they should maybe change on their pages?
So I think I'll say like there's no better experience just than just playing around with Lightning App Builder and get familiar with it. Like I'll say pick up a use case where you have an end user request of customizing a UI, understand the request like really well, and try to see how you can solve using Lightning App Builder. Once they start doing that, they'll get familiar with all the features and functions of Lightning App Builder, including dynamic
Mhm.
forms and actions. Because like we even in dynamic forms and even in Lightning App Builder, what we have done is like we have this guardrails and feature announcement features that like if a new admin comes in and if they're trying to work with record detail, we prompt them that hey, record detail was the thing of the past. Do you want to move to a newer world, dynamic forms? And this is how we do it. So we have this in-app guidance to help new admins to walk through newer features. But I think the best thing is to like get started and start work and like start playing around with it.
So you heard it here, admins. If you haven't gotten hands-on yet with some of these features we're talking about in Lightning App Builder, like jump into your sandbox, jump into your Trailhead environment, your developer environment, and just open up edit page and start playing around with elements on the page and following that guidance that Brinkal is mentioning on that right panel. That'll help guide you through some of the features that are available. So we've
Absolutely.
had these, great updates with dynamic forms, dynamic actions, things that you've been sharing with us today about, the awesome building that our admins are doing with these features. But I know, when we get a chance to talk to product managers and get insight into product, we love hearing about what's next. And I think for our admins, it's particularly important as they plan for their own roadmaps. So, can you share with us, insight about the roadmap for App Builder or exciting releases that we have coming with App Builder?
Sure. I'm excited to share like the next big thing and even the roadmap. But for us, we are adding to the dynamic family, and the next big thing that you're going to see in Lightning App Builder is going to be dynamic interactions. Now, what is dynamic interactions? Dynamic interactions is a capability where admins can configure interactions between two components on the page using just point and click tools. They don't need to write any code to configure any interactions between two components on the page. They can just do that using Lightning App Builder. They can bring experiences to life using this new feature. And not only that, not only configuring interaction between two components, but they can also invoke services, external services, internal services using dynamic interactions. And targeting a component is just a start that we are going to GA in winter 22. Post winter 22, you'll see a new capability to navigate to a new URL, a tab, send an SMS, invoke a flow, invoke a quick action on certain, or invoke an external API when certain events are fired from a component. All this would be possible through just using Lightning App Builder and no code. And when it comes to the roadmap, for Winter 22, I'm very excited to say that we will be GAing dynamic interactions, target a component as a service. And we'll also be piloting other services that we talked about in the previous slide. The next big thing that's coming post dynamic interactions is we are going to bring related list configurations into Lightning App Builder. This is continuing on the trend that we want you to move away from page layout editor and configure all that you need on the Lightning App Builder. And in Spring 22 to 26, you'll start seeing like even bigger features such as multi-entity experiences on app pages. What does this mean is like on Lightning app pages, you would be able to drag and drop fields onto the page and drive these fields using different entities and different records. And this is going to be huge. And we are going to GA other services for dynamic interactions. This is building upon the progress that we made on Winter 22. And there are some exciting dynamic forms enhancements in place that will be shipping in Spring 22 as well. Uh, and we'll be GAing rated list configurations capability in Lightning App Builder. Then there's another number one true to the core feature, which is like providing capability in Lightning App Builder for admins to filter out related lists. This is huge. Like based on a recent voting contest, this was the number one idea that was voted by our community. So we are proud in shipping this feature as part of our Spring 22 release. So Summer 22 is building upon the progress that we made in 2.6. We'll be GAing multi-entity experiences on our pages, more dynamic forms and Lightning App Builder enhancements to be shipped as part of Summer 22. And we'll be GAing something called as a grid component, which will provide admins the capability to dynamically lay out different fields and components on the page on a component, which can allow you to configure like multiple columns of variable width on a page.
That is a really exciting roadmap. I think I'm sure admins that are watching right now are really excited. It looks like, as you mentioned, more and more control over the page design experience is coming for admins in App Builder, being able to control or point to other elements outside of that page. And then, I think something that's really important to call out that you mentioned is bringing more and more of that functionality from page layout editor to App Builder. So, as admins are thinking about where should they build, where should they be investing, their time and energy, definitely spending time getting comfortable with App Builder, getting up to speed with App Builder so that they can, stop building page layouts and really focus on building App Builder pages.
Yeah, I think that's a good point because I keep hearing this feedback from customers, specifically admins, like asking me like, how do I know what to configure where? Like, should I go to page layout editor? Should I go to Lightning App Builder, or should I go to this third tool? So our goal is to simplify that process for you, and I think that's what we are trying to do with like dynamic forms, actions, and now related list configurations in Lab. Like provide you this central place, which is Lightning App Builder, so you can configure everything that you want from this single tool, and you don't have to switch between tools to configure just a single UI.
Thank you so much for sharing this with us. I think this is really great insight, and I appreciate you sharing this on how admins should be thinking about, where they can use existing features like dynamic forms, dynamic actions, and then also giving this, sneak peek into the roadmap. Any last words of advice for admins that are listening on, advice on how they should be kind of approaching their roadmap, their page building plans?
So I think these are very exciting times. Like as I told you, like we're in this giant wave of digital transformation, and admins, you guys are going to be at the center seat of this transformation. So think about like few months down the line, how can in order to make your end users more effective, what type of complex applications would you need to create? And how would these features that we are shipping out of the box through Salesforce, like dynamic forms, actions, interactions, would help you craft this complex applications? And keeping that in mind, build your roadmap.
Well, thank you so much, Brinkal. We really appreciate you, joining to share all of your expertise and insight with our admin community, and appreciate you here. And I will see you next time.
Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure.
Awesome. I loved hearing all of those updates for Lightning App Builder, especially looking forward to moving all of my pages off of Page Layout Editor into App Builder in the future. So this was some really great insight for how we should be thinking about our user experience, our page design, and taking advantage of dynamic forms, dynamic actions, and coming soon, dynamic interactions. Make sure you never miss a video like this by clicking subscribe on our YouTube channel. And you can find this and all of our other content that's created especially for you, the Salesforce admin, at admin.salesforce.com. Thanks for joining today's episode of Expert Corner, and I will see you next time.